Колеги, вітання. Український кризовий медіа-центр продовжує свою роботу і зараз до слова
Dear colleagues, now we proceed our work and now we invite Kateryna Levchenko, head of the selection board, and the president of the International Women's Rights Center Strada, Ukraine, and Vitaliy Shabunin, secretary of the selection board, head of the Anti-corruption Action Center. Good morning, dear colleagues, dear journalists, dear citizens who watch us online. I would like to greet everyone in the name of the selection board, which is to select the anti-corruption prosecutor, and the 7 members of the board have been elected by the parliament, and 4 members have been appointed by the general prosecutor's office. The important things now are the requirements to the candidates to the offices in the anti-corruption prosecutor's office, and whether there is any political pressure on the board members. We don't feel political pressure, and as professionals and responsible people, we would be doing the best our efforts so that there is no such pressure. As concerns certain divergence between the social expectations, public expectations, and the effective legislation. This is the law on the prosecution. I was initiated to have consultations with the Verkhovna Rada so that they look into the possibility to change the legislation about the prosecution. So now we announce the need to have the consultation process between the Verkhovna Rada and President and the Commission. The Commission operates, our board operates within the norms of the legislation. So when the candidates can be selected, taking into account the technological process and stage process, so we will need 2 months. We think that the nominees will be announced in the end of November or start of December. Why do we need these 2 months? The criteria, requirements to the candidates, they are now can be found in Article 27 of the law on the prosecution. The citizens of Ukraine should not be sentenced, should have high legal education in law, and all these clauses provide the grounds for questions, and that is why we appeal to the Verkhovna Rada, because they adopted the amendments in July and they remained this article unchanged. the members of our board differ, very versatile. There are 7 persons delegated by the Verkhovna Rada and 4 persons delegated by the General Prosecutor's Office. We have experts, analysts, and the members have various views about various matters. So such controversial issues are subject to the positive dialogue, and all meetings of our board are streamed and online, and also could be watched in the archive. We should announce our meetings 24 hours prior to our sittings. In order to hold the contest, we should also approve the procedure of the contest, and we should work according to the regulation about our activities, and people who would like to apply to file applications for these vacancies, they should understand how our selection board operates. So we hope that on October 1 we will approve the procedure of our activities, then we can start the context. What are the main provisions in the draft procedure? First, this is a streamlining online of our meetings. Then also we will communicate the information through internet resources, posting the information about the nominated candidates. We will post the information about the incomes of the nominees, so the public will play very important role because we will accept information from them. For example, if they know some persons, they can communicate some information whether this person is decent. Our procedure will be structured on stage-by-stage basis. We will use the detector of lie. This is not mandatory, but this proposal will be considered. So a person voluntary may be examined at the lie detector. So the National Academy of Prosecutors' Office and the General Prosecutor's Office and NGOs are involved in drafting the procedure of our meetings. And do you have there is a question, whether we can find the nominees, the contenders. Yes, we will find the contenders, but what about the candidates? We will be talking about this when the contest starts. We will choose 3 candidates for each vacancy in the specialized anti-corruption prosecution office. And finally, I would like to say that we have a person in our membership, a prosecutor, Mary Butler, a legal advisor and representative of U.S. Department of Justice. She takes part in our meetings by Skype, and she is a member of our selection board. So we hope that our activities will be duly conducted, and she will help us with this as well, and our activities will help the Anti-Corruption Bureau to work. Good morning. Dear friends, I will be very short, very brief. The Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's qualities are very important. If he is not a professional, then all the Anti-Corruption Bureau's activities will be buried. This position will be the most decisive for the activities, anti-corruption activities in the country in general. So the selection board should withstand any political pressure. Now we don't feel any pressure, but if so happens, we will take efforts not to yield to any temptations under the political pressure, and also we will appeal to you, to journalists and the public, if we feel any political pressure in future. If the law will be changed, amended by the MPs, the Parliament has the opportunity and is empowered to accept amendments to the law on prosecution. It depends on the Verkhovna Rada, not from us. Of course, we will give more access to you for information. We would like you to pay detailed attention to every stage of our contest. The more information we will have about the candidates and nominees, the more fair will be our decision. The information about positive and negative benchmarks in the biographies of the future nominees will be critically required for us, and we would like to say to the future nominees that we will find all information about you. So if you have some bad deeds in your past, then better don't file applications for the vacancies in the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's office. Unfortunately, the law is saying that we should nominate several candidates. This is the rule of the law. So it doesn't depend on us. We should provide several candidates for the vacancy according to the law. Now we welcome Viktor Ivanovich. Dear journalists and dear audience, I would like to speak about the regulation provision. We have the regulatory provision which is very discomfort to our public and to public expectations, to the contenders to this vacancy of Anti-Corruption Prosecutor. I would like to remind that the law was adopted and took effect on 12th of February this year, but on July 2nd, 2 months ago, the laws were initiated, which I can't accept as a person politically, but as concern you, you are more free to speak about the July's law. Speaking about the February's law, there were the maximum access was ensured for any candidates, for any nominees who can apply to the office of the administrative vacancies in the Anti-corruption Prosecutor's office. There will be at least 11 or 12 administrative vacancies. The prosecution itself will approve experts and professionals, and we will elect only 11 or 12 administrative positions. What is discomfortable to me? Discomfortable confrontation is between Articles 7 and 8. It concerns, I would give some example. As for example, I'm Shishkin, having 20 years of experience as an MP, as a candidate of PhD in law, and I don't have the right to file an application according to this law. And for example, Kateryna, she is a doctor in law. She also can't file application if she wants. What is the problem? If we look thoroughly into the law and compare the regulations in Articles 7 and 8, the Article 7 is saying about the prosecution system. And I have already said that General Prosecutor's Office is not included in the Constitution. There is the General Prosecutor in the Constitution mentioned, but the General Prosecutor's Office is not mentioned in the Constitution. And this is just one small block in the prosecution system. And speaking about the constitutional aspects, Article 8 goes about these aspects. There are 5 types listed in Article 8. It lists building blocks. General Prosecutor's Office, Regional Prosecutor's Office. The third is local prosecutors' offices of districts in the cities, also military prosecutors' offices. And the 5th link is specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. This means a specialized anti-corruption office, prosecutor's office, is such a building block. Article 8 is saying that the General Prosecutor's Office, not the prosecution office, but the General Prosecutor's Office, will form as an independent department a specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. This is the July's amendments. This is not in the initial provisions adopted in February this year. So these regulations are controversial. We don't have specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. We have a unit within the General Prosecutor's Office according to the July amendments to the law. This means that we don't have an independent, specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. The access to apply the criteria should be just specialized educational background in law, also some scientific activities, and at least 2 years of experience. All these people shall be eligible to apply, and if we speak of the unit of the General Prosecutor's Office, there are other eligibility criteria set for the General Prosecutor's Office. The prosecutor's experience should be at least 5 years. For example, I have been working as a judge for 20 years, but as a prosecutor, I have only 2 years of experience. So I can't take part to participate in this contest. So we should say that the eligibility criteria now are very strict. They are too narrow. This is not the personalities it is not about the personality. This is about the legislation, the amendments adopted in July by the Verkhovna Rada. I have already applied to the management of the Batkivshina faction as I am a member of Batkivshina. I also applied to the Samopomich faction. And all of us applied to our faction's management, to apply to the Verkhovna Rada in general with this matter. So that the amendments should be adopted again, and we also apply to you, and we hope for the public outcry, because the controversial norms, provisions are now available in the law of Ukraine. Thank you for your attention. I have short addition. These amendments were voted 26 times in July, and from the 26 attempts they were adopted. So the pressure on MPs was unprecedented in July. I have a question about widening the eligibility criteria. This is not your powers, but what do you think? How much these criteria should be extended? I have told about this already. Speaking of the prosecutor's offices, all criteria which eligibility criteria to the candidates to the prosecution offices in general, the eligibility criteria are 2 years of any experience with the justice system, whatever, whether you work as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, or as a judge. There is not an agreed position as to the eligibility criteria issued by our selection board. We just understand that all of us understand that the eligibility criteria should be extended, and there are different versions for the eligibility criteria which are possible to extend. There are different logics explaining different proposals, and I think that in future discussions and debates with the MPs, the members of our board will hold up their positions. You have already told that the nominees and candidates will be selected by the end of November. When then the Anti-corruption Prosecutor's office start to work? You ask us the question which we don't know how to respond to. We can't reply because there is a certain technology of operation. We are among the Scylla and Charybdis of quality and between quality and fastness. We give 2 weeks for applications. And we also provide the opportunity to send documents by mail, so we need to give several days more to extend the period for applications so that post office mailed documents can be received by us. And this concerns every stage, that we need some time for every stage. We see that at least 2 months we need for our activities. This is not very much important, but our priority is to appoint the Anti-corruption Prosecutor who will then appoint other experts and fill all the vacancies in his office. We were the authors of the February's law, which was spoiled in July. We understood that the board, the selection board, should provide high quality, and we should select a maximum professional and non-corrupt person to the vacancy of the Anti-corruption Prosecutor. The second, the office, the Anti-corruption Bureau can start investigations and criminal proceedings without specialized Anti-corruption Prosecutor's office, but they have a lot of other things to do. They should organize access to the registers, to lay networks, to organize access to all the networks of all the registered. The Anti-corruption Bureau has already started its operations, and they have a lot of work to do prior that they start criminal proceedings. Our selection board is responsible for appointments to administrative vacancies with the specialized Anti-corruption Prosecutor's office. So we will recommend nominees to these administrative positions. And when these people will be appointed, they will hire the prosecutors, the professionals to work in the Anti-corruption Prosecutor's office. So from point A to point B, the distance of 2 months sounds rather too optimistic. As for me, I think that the period may be longer, and I would like to add that in principle. As soon as we have selected these 11 administrative positions, then the specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office may start their operations already.